Is this thing on? It's on. All right, guys, we're live. Roll with the Fox, episode 7. So, let's go over some things. All right, guys? First thing is, guys, we only have half an hour. So, as you can see, I have questions. This is episode 6. The ones that are colored in orange and pink, those are questions that did not get answered last time. I tried to answer them in the successive episodes. The problem is the backlog is getting really big. These are the questions that we got for this episode, and hopefully there's going to be more questions live. So this is supposed to be a troubleshooting session, half an hour. So what you're going to get is, if you want a more detailed instruction on a specific position, specific submission, I do a lot of these with Firaz Zahabi on his on the TriStar Gym channel. We've done on guillotines, we've done on triangles, reverse, inverted, we've done on arm locks, we've done on escape from a bottom of cross side, we've done escapes from the back. Those tend to be half an hour to 45 minutes focused specifically on that position. There's also there's a lot of instructionals out there, guys, where you're going to get a very detailed description and very detailed instruction on how to do 12 or 15 different ways to deal with a position. Since we only have half an hour, and I'm going to try to wrap it up, I'm wasting part of that time. We're going to try, this is supposed to be troubleshooting, where I'm going to give you, we're trying to focus on specific positions, and I'm going to try to give you my favorite ways to deal with those positions, okay? So you're not going to necessarily get a great depth. You're going to get sort of the things that are most successful for me. What also I'd like to point out is when you ask questions, if people double up on the questions, that question is going to get precedence over others, because as you can see, there's no way we're going to cover this today. So make sure, guys, that as we go through these questions, if you're doubling up or if you're watching live and you have follow-up questions, put them in the comments, okay? So without further ado, let's move on, all right? So, guys, I'm going to periodically refer to this. Gilad Sapir from Israel, his question is, how do I escape deep north-south? So, guys, that's a good question. Obviously, when somebody goes for a north-south question, north-south attack, all right, what I try to do is turn to him before he blocks my head from doing so. So right now, it's just too deep. This is going to kick on. So if I can turn my head, this is the way I would deal with it. All right. So anytime, if you can catch it early before it sinks too deep, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So I always want to turn my head to him, but at some point, you might just be too late. When this happens, guys, I try to tuck my head and actually turn my head a little more rather than square on. If you square onto the ceiling, this is when it's going to kick in really deep. So I actually turn a little bit into the choke. This is going to go, again, if we have time to cover, into some back escapes where you're actually turning into the choke to allow you to escape. Now, the second thing is I'm going to tuck my chin in, and what I'm looking for is to put his head basically in the crook where my sort of shoulder is. And what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to lock up basically I call this south-north choke. It's on YouTube somewhere. Speaking of that, guys, we have a YouTube channel. It's called Silver Fox BJJ. If you go on there, please subscribe, like, share. Same thing with the live feed. Basically, all the episodes of Roll with the Fox migrate eventually. They stay on my page, and they migrate into the YouTube channel as well. I believe all the 6 episodes are up there. Is it true, Mike, or not?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's a good answer, because otherwise the severity of the choke depended on your answer. So anyways, as I'm doing this, guys, I want to make sure that his head slides towards my armpit, and then I lock up. And what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to squeeze. And he's going to squeeze too. So as we squeezing, usually my choke is a lot stronger. And I've experimented with this quite a bit for the last 10, 15 years. If you can do this, even if you got a very strong guy, at the very least, when the choke starts to kick in, if you cannot finish him, he's going to back off, which now allows you to potentially recover guard. Okay? So let's look at it again. So this is an escape from very deep north. Yeah, I got the hand to move back into the camera zone. So this is an escape when you get just too deep. You really can't, you have a hard time escaping, and you cannot turn your head to him anymore. So this happens. As it's happening, I turn. So normally I would try to turn to him. This is just too deep. I turn away into the choke, so to speak, and try to push his head into my armpit. I'm going to lock up almost like a rear naked choke, and I squeeze. Believe it or not, you actually have, if you can lock up the proper angle, you actually have a stronger choke than he does. All right? So again, play around with it. Hopefully that's going to work for you. All right? Guys, one thing I wanted to also mention, we have a BJJ camp in the winter in Costa Rica. It's 5 days, and I think Jess, one of our students, had put up the link in the comments. So if you're interested, you could talk to Jess about it. There's still a few spots left. I think there's only 12 left or so. So if you're interested, contact Jess. All right, guys, moving right along. Let's look at, again, this kind of goes into sort of the question of turning into the choke. We just did that, and when you get caught very deep, you have no choice but to turn into the choke. So we did that with the north-south choke, using the south-north choke. Now we're going to do that when the guy's on your back. Sometimes I prefer to deal with the chokes before they get sunken too deeply. But sometimes you have no choice. It's just too deep, and Mike is already. So what I tried to do in this case, I tried to clear the legs. I need to turn into the choke, because if I try to turn, it's just too late. All right, Mike. So as I need to clear at least one of the legs, preferably both. First, I need to. The bottom one is more important, but even if he has, sometimes I just need to turn. It's just too deep. I clear the bottom one. I usually pull the head, and then I just continue to turn. All right. So this question is from Alex ST from Montreal, Canada. So he specifically asked what happened. That sometimes you need to turn into the choke. Yes. If you have trouble, if you just too deep into something, you may need to turn into the choke to basically escape. There's a high level of risk, but don't forget, you're pretty much getting close to being finished. So take some risks. A lot of times there's huge value in reversing direction. So a lot of times the guy expects you to go a certain way, especially if you're in trouble. When you reverse direction, a lot of times that's what happens. That's what allows you to escape. My usual Enrique is sitting behind the camera, and he and I train a lot, and that's sort of like he hunts for my back a lot, and a lot of times that's how I escape, is when it gets really, really bad and I'm about this close to being finished, I reverse direction and escape. All right? We have any comments, questions on the two techniques we've covered so far?
No, but Scott Miller says, good morning, Coach. He's a big fan, and he has a question for you. How do I prevent my opponent's head from slipping out when attacking an inverted triangle from the bottom?
Yes, that is on the list. Inverted triangle. So, guys, again, when we hit an inverted triangle, so say, for example, I hit it off the guard pass, it's very important to try to lock up my legs properly. Usually the head pops out because we're not squeezing our thighs. So what I'm trying to do is, turn around, Mike, so people can see. So it's not necessarily a function. If I cross my feet like this, that's not a triangle, it's a diamond, right? But even that is a high level of control. So what I'm doing, I'm back heeling and squeezing my thighs so he cannot escape. But you can see that I'm in sort of in that never land where my body is partially to the ceiling. There are two types of inverted triangle. There's one where I'm facing to the ceiling and eventually I'm going to turn to his head. And the other one is where I'm completely on my side. Okay? If you, in that never land, this is where it's, you could probably prevent him from slipping his head out. Again, back heeling and squeezing your thighs together. But the biggest problem here is you're going to have a very hard time finishing him. So in order to do that, I need to be all the way on my side, and that's when you get a good squeeze. Okay? So remember that, guys. With triangles, you prefer to lock up a triangle, but sometimes you get a diamond. Doesn't mean that you should lose control. The fact that you have your ankles crossed doesn't prevent him from escaping. What does is back heeling and squeezing your thighs. So it's the same thing from here, even if, you know, Mike is really big. So what I'm doing now is I'm bringing my knees to my chest and squeezing my thighs together. So even though this is not a triangle, I still have a decent amount of control. And from here, I will, a lot of times, because the guy on top is not going to give you a straight triangle, but he will give you a reverse triangle. Okay? So let's move on to the next questions, guys. All right. Dorsal fin and Kimura Defense. So we have a question from Linus Olsson from Sweden, dorsal fin Kimura Defense. And then we also have a question from Valery Arinovsky from Russia. Again, Kimura Defense. So let's look at two situations for Kimura. So the dorsal fin, let's do it this way so people can see. So, this is, right now, if I'm caught in a Kimura, I want to make sure that first I protect my arm. So when you're here, guys, it's going to be too late. So what I want to do is notice how I'm shifting my hips to the side. So even if the guy is straddling your head really tight, what I'm trying to do is shift my hips. I'm trying to get my knee behind his elbow. All right? So when I'm on my side, this is not a good defense. I need to try to go flat, and if I can, try to get my knee behind his elbow. Right now, it's behind his armpit, but it's enough for me to keep pushing until my arm can slip out. Okay? So let's go over it again. Guys, again, remember, this is not going to be easy. It's not a walk in the park. Anytime you're caught in a bad situation, don't expect to walk in the park. You know, sometimes when I teach defense to certain moves and people are, oh, this is hard. No shit. It should be hard. That's why it's a bad position. So, okay, so anytime I'm on my side, I try to make myself flat if I can. Next thing, I try to bring my leg. Right now, Mike's not allowing me to bring it to, but at least I get it to his armpit. Once I get it to the elbow, I can slip out. Okay? So that's sort of the go-to Kimura defense when you're on your side, when you have the dorsal fin Kimura. The other possible scenario is when the guy takes it from the bottom. So this difference is a little bit different. A lot of times, once people get that Kimura, they actually want you to pass the guard so they can pivot around, pivot away. All right. So when that happens, guys, there's two things you could possibly do. One is if you're on the ball and you're fast, you can just step over and go straight into an arm lock. Your timing has to be impeccable, because if you lose the timing, you're gonna get Kimura. All right. So if I feel I have an opening for this, I know he's gonna. First, I gotta protect my arm. You cannot be out here; it's too late. All right. So I protect my arm. I usually try to hide it, on my leg, and I go around and pivot into an arm lock. Okay. Now, sometimes that's not possible. His grip is just too strong and too good, and you know you're not going to make it. When that happens, I punch my arm through, and now that takes it away. All right. So there's only one arm to punch through. It's the free arm. That's the only one you can punch through. All right. So that's a good defense. When you have somebody lock up a Kimura from the bottom, punch the arm through. All right, that typically gets rid of his grip, and therefore allows you to continue. Usually you'll wind up on top, or you'll wind up back in the guard. All right, do we have, yes?
Elot's up here had a question concerning your first move, which was the north-south. What do you do if he doesn't choke you, but just rather pins your hips with his hands?
Okay. That's a good question, guys. So, when you have a guy on top across side, all right? So, this is the question. So when he pins, I assume this is the position. All right, so when you have a guy just pinning you, again, this is not going to be necessarily easy, but usually if the guy on top, all he does is just hold you in one position. You just need to create micro angles, try to turn, try to twist, to create an opening, all right? If the guy just sits here, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to slide as far down as possible. If the guy's, strong, now what I'll do is spit out the back. A lot of times, if I accomplish this, if the guy doesn't back off, this is done. Guys, let me fix my gi and show off the rash guard. Thanks, Kristen Pony, for the rash guard. And Mike is the one who designed the logo, Roll with the Fox. So let's go over that again. This is a good, when a lot of times people go north-south as just form of control. They're not choking you. If they're choking you, they're high up. They're close to your shoulders. They're close to your neck. If they're not choking you, if they're just holding, you need to slide. You need to move your hips. You need, it's hard because he's controlling your hips. So usually when people control your hips, they try to either control them moving from side to side or straight down. So whichever angle he gives you, that's the one you go with to create openings. You may not, it's not like you're going to sneeze or you're going to move your legs one way and boom, you're gone. You may have to change around. You may have to switch directions. You may have to bump up. You have to sort of try to squirm, for lack of a better word, to create small openings that you will exploit as you go through the move. So let's look at it again. So Mike is holding me down. Sometimes even if the guy holds on to your belt, this will become more difficult, all right? But if that happens, I'm trying to bust, okay? So if the guy, again, right now, Mike is holding to my belt. So my mobility from left to right is limited. Sliding up and down is limited. The one way that it's not is straight up. So I'll bump, and again, I'll see how he reacts during this. If I could turn, bring my elbow in, that's another possible way to escape. But anyways, I need to make sure I create an opening. Right. Sorry, Mike. I hope that's not your drawing hand. All right, so that's a couple of different ways to deal with bottom of north-south. Let's look at further questions. Do we have any other questions, comments, or follow-ups on the things we've covered so far?
Patrick Krause of Germany asked about variations of scissor sweeps. And Jason Bever says hello from North Carolina.
What's up, guys? So let's keep going. Let's see. What do we have? Okay, Pad Major from Canada. His question was, what happens if you have guy guard passing and you have a knee shield and he just kind of smashes it from the top? Okay, so what we're doing is this. So I may have either half guard or, and the guy just smashes. So I have a couple of options here. I need to possibly, right now Mike is doing a very good job driving forward and trying to pin my shoulder. So sometimes I can threaten a 5-finger guillotine. What a lot of times happens, if the guy ignores it, he ignores it at his own peril, because if Mike continues to drive, he may get finished here. But a lot of times, a savvy guy will lighten up the load. What I'm going to do now is I either let him pass or get my leg out. If I know that I'm getting smashed, then I'd rather let him pass my guard on my terms than him dictate the terms. All right? So while I still have some semblance of guard, I will either get my leg out or even let him move a little bit further. As he's doing this, my top leg is pushing him a little bit off to the side, and my bottom leg is scissoring out. What I'm going to do is now invert, and now depends what he gives me. Right now, Mike is giving me an omoplata. Are we still in camera? Good. All right, so right now, I have transitioned successfully from having my guard pass to going after him. So let's go back to the marker. All right, and let's look at it. So as my guard is getting smashed, what I'll do is if I threaten him, a lot of times the guy's pressure lightens up a little bit. All right, but he knows he needs to drive forward. As he's driving forward, I'm gonna either let him pass or actually remove my leg myself. So right now I'm sort of in a half guard. I will just get my leg out. As he's moving through, I'm gonna use my top leg to just push him off to the side a little bit. All I'm looking for, again, guys, transitions when opportunities for attack or defense are created. So really focus on your transitions. Don't focus just on techniques, focus on transitions. So right now, as Mike is passing, he will pass. The next step for him is to grab my head, and now you're battling from bottom across side. Before that happens, I bump him just as he's passing. He will, if I just stay here like this, he will dominate, he will get the pass. So right now, I'm gonna invert and attack omoplata, okay? So, Pat, I hope that answers your question. When somebody's pressuring heavy forward, you have to change the direction. If I just fight him head on, if you could fight him off, great. If you could put him back in guard, attack, that's fine. But if you can't, you have to change direction. You have to change how you're defending. And a lot of times, the guy on top has to make adjustments. As you make adjustments, that's your chance to escape. So one more time, Mike starts to smash through. I'm gonna push with my top leg. So he's pinning my leg to the bottom. So I have a hard time lifting, but I can push to the side a little bit. I invert, and now if Mike postures up, I'm going straight into a triangle. If he postures up like that, I go straight into a triangle. But most often you will have a chance to attack omoplata, and at the very least put him on the run. So even if you cannot finish the omoplata, you went from having your guard passed to putting your opponent on the run. Okay?
Caesar Alaris from Florida, amazing transitions.
Hi Caesar, how you doing? I follow your progress on Facebook. I'm glad you're doing great. You're in a great school, and I hope I know you're getting very close to your black belt, and I wish you the best. All right.
Pat Major says thank you, by the way.
Who says thank you?
Pat Major.
Oh, okay, great. All right. So moving right along, guys. So Sasha Leising from Germany, seconded by Leo Hunter from Germany. Guard opening strategies. So that's a very good question. Yes, I know I have to back up. Guys, I'm trying to come into your living rooms.
Personal instruction.
The personal instruction coming at you. When I hop out of your iPad or iPhone, that's when you should be worried. So guys, let's look at two strategies, and we're going to migrate again. How do we deal straight into what happens if the guy then switches into DLR Riva Guard? So, why are you rolling like this? You're supposed to be this way. So guys, sometimes, slide over. So sometimes you have a guy that locks up his guard and just, it's difficult. When this happens to you, I'm a fan of, as soon as you smell a problem, address it right away. A problem is a lot easier to address in the early stages than when it becomes really deep. So anytime a guy closes his guard really tight, what happens is that the next thing he's going to start to get his grips, and this is a problem. So if his grips are already set, I need to clear the grips. I need to be able to posture up. So once guys, this is one of the most underrated escapes. Grab my head on this side. So, or collar, a lot of times, especially nogi, guys, just push at the elbow and swim. A lot of times people just try to push away. I can swim inside or swim outside. As soon as you clear the grips, go. So what I do is I stand up. I stand up staggered. My right leg is pushing into his hips to limit the mobility. And I need to move fairly quickly because I cannot have him move his body. Yeah, I'm back to where I started, okay? So as soon as I stand up, I want to make sure, what happened to 10-minute warning? So I want to make sure that I pressure his hips so his mobility is limited for just a split second. That's all I need. You cannot, as you stand up, don't give him a chance to sort of square up to you and start getting in his grips. So I stand up, misalign, and I pressure with my right inner thigh. I accidentally stepped on Mike's gi, but I'm going to keep it. That's actually not a bad thing. Guys, don't push like this. Elbows in and push down on the knee. As soon as it's down, I staple it. Go for the head control. If I can, I will grab his gi, and now I will sprawl. When I'm here, guys, even if the guy's pretty big, I'm going to go under his arm. I'm not getting triangled because I'm pinning Mike's right leg with my left leg. So even if he tries, this is not going to happen. Now I start to drive. This puts the guy in such misery that he basically wants you to pass the guard. And that's fine. This is what I want. I want the guard pass. But depends. Sometimes I make the guy's life miserable down there for a few seconds. All right, let's look at it again. Pressure. Usually this will break his knees. Not his knees. This will break the grip on his ankles. Once this happens, guys, I continue to control his hips with my right leg. And a lot of times, I'll just get a guard pass. Okay? That's one way. The other way, especially, so as I stand up, and especially if the guy keeps squaring up to me, what I try to do is arch my back a little bit to make sure I create space between his legs to drive my knee through, like a log splitter. As soon as I do, guys, now, again, Mike, this is gonna hurt. Okay? So let's look at it again. As soon as the knee's through, guys, start driving forward. So, stand up. This time, I cannot get the control. He keeps squaring up to me. That's not a problem. I bring my knee in the middle and then just sit. As soon as I'm here, guys, whichever side is more appropriate, you'll feel it. To your left, to your right, it doesn't matter. It depends. This time, Mike's giving me to the right. Guys, make sure you hide this leg. You don't want to get caught in lockdown or scorpion. So right away, I hide the trailing leg. And now, I'm going to pass guard. All right? How are we doing on time? 2 minutes. Guys, let's look at a De La Riva Guard. So also, that's another question. I believe Valery Arilovsky from Russia asked this one. How do I deal with De La Riva Guard? So, I personally like De La Riva Guard. So, first of all, I let Mike get his grips. You need to make sure that he cannot get 4 grips. If he gets 4 grips, you're going to have a problem in your hand. If that happens, you need to hunker down, make sure you're not getting swept. At least get one of your grips back. It doesn't matter gi or no gi. Even if no gi, doesn't matter, okay? So as soon as, what I'm going to do is I try to push his leg down. Now, if I can turn his hips this way, I will. And I will smash him and pass this way to my right. But a lot of times as I do this, he makes an adjustment. He turns the other way. And then I will make a knee cut pass. I'm a fan of knee cut pass. Even if I pass wide, I know how Mike's going to react. The guy goes straight into his turtle. So I'm okay. I love attacking from north-south turtle. So if I cut it too wide, I'm fine with it. Now this goes to Chaz Butler in California. Once I'm here, what I'm going to do is bring my head to the other side. I will clear his arm out of the way with my arm, and then I will reinforce with my leg. A lot of times, the guy will flop on his side, and we go straight into Anaconda. Okay, so that's a nice actually sequence. So I clear the grip. So first thing I need to make sure, so Mike has 3 grips right now. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I cut off. I'm giving the signal that we got to cut off. All right, give me 2 more minutes. All right, so I clear this. I shift to my right to try to smash pass him. Most guys will not let you, they shift, and I just cut the knee the other way. Here I have a very strong underhook. I can stop him. Even if my underhook was weak and Mike turns to his side, comes to turtle, we take his arm away. I push it with my right forearm, replace with my leg, take the slack out, and go for an arm and guillotine. A lot of guys will deal with it by flopping to their side, which allows me to switch into Anaconda. All right, guys, I gotta wrap it up. So, real quick, we'll see you episode 8. I believe it's Friday, January 3rd. Guys, like, share, invite people. People tell me make sure everybody likes it, shares it, tags it, and what else? What else do we need?
Send your questions anytime you see the post the week of the live.
Good. And guys, one other thing. I have Fluid BJJ, which is sort of the style of my game. I like to focus on transition, efficient transitions that lead to submissions. That's sort of the style of my game, and that's why I call it Fluid BJJ. It's a play on words because I do like to train in the water when I'm banged up. And I also have this Roll with the Fox. I'm thinking about somehow combining the two into one because I have too many things to feed. I have Silver Fox Academy Butler, Silver Fox Academy in Saddlebrook, Fluid BJJ, Roll with the Fox, Twitter, Instagram. So just too many things. So I'm trying to figure out a way to combine the two names, concepts into one. So if you have any ideas, I'd love to hear them. I look forward to seeing you guys in 4.5 weeks or so. All right, guys?